Okay, hello everybody, and welcome back to the last panel of Creative Insights. This is our day where we're giving students an idea of what it's like to work in the industry. So we've been talking to industry figures, industry workers from across music and media all day. We've had an amazing range of guests. I would like to welcome now from Digital Orchard, Nico Corfield and Timi Oladeji. Nico has been a video assistant.
Yes.
I'm not sure. I mean, it sounds like somebody turns things on and off.
Yeah.
But...
So video is when the digital age of film came around. Well, actually, it actually worked with film as well. But basically, what the whole point of video is it means that the director and any member of crew, so say hair and makeup, need to be able to see this character and what their hair's going to look like, and if there's something goes wrong during a take, that they will see it at all times.
Yeah.
So it means that you can also play back any footage and keep that workflow going as it should do. That's
okay.
what it's meant to be. And as a video assistant, my job is to make sure that the monitors are where they should be, or cabling's done, and also to operate when the operator has to do something else or go deal with something else. So it's very much a responsibility.
Okay, so hold that thought because I'll be coming back to that. I mean, we've got this world of operators and assistants, and sometimes this word assistant comes up and it sounds like, oh, they're an assistant director, they're a video assistant. But actually, it's kind of the fixer a lot of the time.
A lot of the time you are the troubleshooter.
Yeah. And Timi, you are, I'm going to read this off the thing, you do film scanning and technical production.
Yep.
What is film scanning?
Film scanning, so for those of you that don't know, that DPs and filmmakers still shoot on film, like actual celluloid film.
Okay.
35mm, 65, 16. So my job as a scan operator is essentially to digitize what's been captured onto that negative. So we work with our processing partners, Kodak at Pinewood. So they process all the negatives that they receive, and Digital Orchard, we scan. And essentially our job is to preserve all the information and all the signal that's been captured into the negative, digitize it, create various file types, and then send that to the camera team and to production, and to keep them happy, to make sure that their footage is good.
Okay, so that's really interesting. I mean, I didn't realise. I know that in some special cases, people shot on celluloid film.
No,
but it's still pretty common.
It's very common.
It's very common. I think the helpful thing is over the last sort of 2-3 years, possibly 5 years, I think it's helped that DPs have won awards and they've pushed for film, and I think that's sort of created a buzz around the industry, and so more people are wanting to shoot on film. There is an upfront cost, but I think people like the challenge of shooting on film, and we hear from DPs and actors and all sorts, and they say there's a different vibe when you're on set, you shoot in film, opposed to digital.
Is that kind of a retro thing, or is it a thing that is? Do you think it is a genuinely different or better result?
Well, as someone that works with actual film, I think there's a difference. It depends who you speak to. I think there's yes, some boil it down to nostalgia. The films that they grew up on were shot on film. But I think there's I don't know how to put it without sounding too airy-fairy. There's something to film. It feels different, it looks different, there's a weight to it, if I can use that term. And I guess as well, for a lot of DPs, it's something different to digital, because when a digital age, there's thousands of cameras, various resolutions. You can shoot on your iPhone or you can shoot on an Arri Alexa, but some people just like they like the opportunity to shoot on film, whether it's 16, with that grain structure, or 35, not too dissimilar from digital, but again, there's a slight difference to it, and you can see it in the image. So yeah, it could be down to nostalgia, it could be down to style, it could be down to even the story. Perhaps the story warrants shooting on film. Maybe it's a time period, and you want to shoot on film to capture that sense of the time and the period. So yeah, it could be various reasons, but there's still a lot of films shot on film. Jurassic. We just worked on Jurassic, the new one that's coming out. That was shot on film.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's pretty interesting, because you always think of those kind of CGI-heavy films as being digitally created these days.
No, they shoot on film as well.
Ah.
Some VFX artists even argue and say that actually it helps when you shoot on film, because, I don't know the VFX side, but some say that it helps because, again, it's not like plasticky, like a digital image. You can tell that there's a bit of weight to it. But again, that's just from what
So some kind of almost indefinable kind of
Yeah.
way.
There's a punch to film that
Yeah.
you can get with it. It's very much that you can, if you look at it often enough, you can see the difference, and there's just something about it.
Yeah. So I'm going to kind of come back to this because this quite interesting question about how a sort of technical process can affect an artistic outcome, I think. But I'm going to kind of reel back a bit because I mean, this kind of passion for this medium, you have what sound like deep technical roles. I mean, when you describe what a video assistant does, it's about you talk about workflows and you talk about making sure these cables are in the right place and stuff like that. And I'll come to you on the workflow on being a digital image, a DIT, is it? A digital image technician? Or
Yes, I can assist with that as well.
Yeah.
Because I have also done de-assisting as well, and also data wrangling and things like that.
Yeah. But the kind of passion for the medium, is that why you got into it? Because you wanted to do something that was working with film? Or did it start off, was that something that you developed during your career?
For me, it was, I'd always loved the look of film, and I'd always enjoyed it. And I started out in digital with I started out in photography more than anything, with digital cameras, but then started really liking the look of 35mm, 16mm, and got my first, God, what was it? I can't remember now. It was so long ago. I think it was a Canon 35mm, and I just sat around taking photos, developing them, just having experiments with them. And that's the fun of it, is you don't know what you're going to get. You know what you've shot, but there's that element of, I don't know, there could be something completely weird with it. Again, if you look at it, in history, the Soviets they didn't have the same techniques as Americans or the Western world did for developing film. So a lot of their photos look bluer or they look redder because of the way that the film was created. There's that whole using different stocks of film creates this wonderful feeling, and it's how you use it and how you adapt to it. Because I did a short film a couple of years ago on black and white 16mm, and I was like, I'm very happy with it, and things went wrong. I lost half the film because it just didn't expose properly. And that's what happens. You probably developed mine, actually, because I think UCA used to send it to, UCA Farnham sends to Kodak in Pinewood, so I think you probably did it.
Probably before my time.
Probably just before your time. But yeah, it's just that love.
So so it's quite interesting, this kind of thing of like sort of almost a sort of playful experimentation of kind of like, you talk about messing around with development, different ways of developing things and just almost kind of playing with them to see what they do.
Exactly. And that's half the fun.
Yeah. And is that a thing? Is that the same from your end? Is it the same sort of?
Similar. So I guess because we're digitizing what's already been captured, so we see the output of what DPs have done on set. Whether it's creative or whether it's technical, and we see a lot of the, for lack of a better term, mistakes as well. And again, so it gives you an idea of what good exposure looks like. What an underexposed image looks like, or even just when it just doesn't look right. And again, part of our role, it's very technical. So my current boss will say back in the Telecine days, there was more creativity to the work, but now it's very sort of, there's numbers we have to hit in terms of, our RGB scopes has to be within a certain range to make sure we're not crushing the blacks or blowing up the highlights. So especially when we're working high-end feature, we have to make sure we're hitting those marks every day, so that down the line, the colorists and the editorial team, they have everything preserved and we're not hindering their creative process in that sense. Yeah. But there's also, the creative side of doing dailies coloring ourselves as well. So adding, S-curves, adding, a contrast grade to images. So, so the editor can see not the final grade, but an idea of what this image should look like.
Yeah.
And again, some producers aren't used to film, so being able to do that as well can sort of help them, get an idea of what film looks like, because a lot of them are used to seeing digital images, so when they see film, they're like, oh yeah, actually, it doesn't look too bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're kind of almost persuading some
Yes, in a
producers
sense,
that-
you're persuading people to shoot on film and you're giving them another option. You know, it's just another. Yes, it's an older technology, but it's just another technology, another way to capture image or to capture light, essentially.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to ask you. I'm going to ask you both to kind of do this. Really, is kind of again. I've been asking a lot of people this, but I'm trying to give an idea to people of what it's like to work in your roles in the industry. What it's. I leave college. I do one of our amazing courses, and we work quite closely with Digital Orchard, as I'm sure you're aware.
Yes.
And so we send a student to Digital Orchard for work experience, and maybe they take an internship, and maybe they go on to work there, and they decide to become a DIT, or they decide to become a video assistant. They think this is the path I want to take. What does their day look like? Get up in the morning, have a cup of coffee.
Depends.
Yeah.
So it very much depends on what the production is.
Yeah.
So different levels have different approaches to it. So big motion pictures, depending on the star level, can be very different. So say you've got one actor who doesn't like going until 1 o'clock in the morning, because that happens. I recently did a job where I ended up staying set till 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
You have to sort of gauge it on how people are, but at the same time, you would expect to do a good long day. Up to about 16 hours is an average day.
Yeah.
But you are doing that for quite a good rate.
Yeah. Is there downtime as well? Or
There is downtime.
There's not all day every day.
Not all day every day. So most of the time, shoots usually, depending on, again, scheduling of what the producers want, the availability of cast, availability of camera teams, of a load of different factors, availability of locations even, it very much differs. So sometimes you could be shooting 3 days on, 3 days off, and then or you could be doing full 5-day weeks and having the weekends off, or you could be doing 2 days during the week, 2 days during the week, 2 days and then 2 weekend days, and it all changes. But then you also have rest periods in between that, so, to allow for recuperation, not just for your crew, but also for the cast as well.
Is that similar work pattern in your area, or is?
Not exactly. So we do have long days, but the benefit of working, within editorial, on the post side, post production, is we, in a sense, we have a 9 to 5. And our department and our partners Kodak, we've tried to steer away from the night shifts and the long hours. We still do long hours. A typical day-to-day would be I come in the morning, get my morning tea, liaise with our partners at Kodak, just to find out what's in that day, how much footage we have to scan. Some days it could be 20,000 foot, some days it could be 50,000 foot, which is...
That sounds like that sounds a very big number. Is that a big number?
It is a big number, so it's about... You're looking at maybe 8 to 12 hours of scanning, again, depending on what...
Is that 8 to 12 hours of film or 8 to 12 hours of work scanning it?
Both. So actually scanning it, creating reports, creating deliverables, and a part of the role, my role, is we scan, every role we get, we scan and we watch each individual frame, like frame by frame. So we're looking for defects, we're looking for blemishes, we're looking for scratches. Again, the nature of working with the analog medium is potentially things can go wrong.
Yeah.
Whether it's on set, through the loader, whether it's in the bath, whether it's on the journey to the bath. So our job is to make sure we QC every image to make sure it's pristine, it's how it should be, and then we report that to. Usually we go through the camera team and then to the wider production. So yeah, we do that. We QC, we create various file types, and we do our best to liaise closely with the DPs and camera team, because again, we're the first eyes, for them on this image, on this motion picture. So we're the first eyes. So we do our best to keep them in the loop. That on today's rushes, we've noticed this, and then we try and investigate. So again, part of the job is doing putting our detective hats on.
Yeah.
Trying to investigate and troubleshooting.
So sort of the troubleshooting side of it seems to be really.
And again, it's with film. It's as much as I love it, it's the nature of film. Things go wrong, and we try and minimise that. But it's part of the process. It's part of the learning process.
Is that something that's? I mean, we've all been kind of keeping, especially in creative industries, been keeping slightly apprehensive tabs on new technology and various AI things and things like that. Is that a workflow that's changing? I mean, it sounds on the face of it that an AI could go through and spot flaws, but is it still really you need a person to do it?
Do you want to touch on this?
And it's a delicate subject.
Both of us,
Yeah,
really.
I mean,
really.
So I've heard of that there are softwares that can essentially QC. I haven't looked in depth into it, so I don't know how good it will be.
Yeah.
I know there's a side of post-production that I think AI can help with, but there's also the side that you can't. You need the human.
You need a kind of.
Yeah, you need an operator.
Yeah.
Like with my role, I think removing an operator essentially it wouldn't work. So I think you need an operator. You need someone that's actually handling the footage, that's reporting, and someone that's got an eye to spot things that usually happen with film and the analog medium. So yeah.
And then more on the on-set side is that video is a little bit safer from AI, mostly because of the fact that it is very much literally what you're shooting. What's in front of the camera.
Yeah.
And you need an operator to be able to switch between each feed. To say this is a multi-camera setup in here. You have multi-camera setup, so you'd have one QSAC operator linked up to all three and say, oh, can I see camera 2 and play back that previous clip? That operator will have to go through and do that. An AI can do that, but not as fast as an operator can. Whereas in DIT, there is obviously there's colour workflows that you can deal with. You can use AI to
because it's not real time.
Yeah, it's not real time, so it's very much what comes through. You get stills of things. You can then colour it and everything. And yes, there's the creative aspect of DIT, but quite often it is you're using a look that the director and DOP have approved beforehand.
Okay, so I'm going to ask a little bit about maybe some favourite projects and what you've done. Tell me something cool.
So the first big motion picture I did was Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
Which was an amazing experience. I really enjoyed that. I didn't do many days on it, but I really enjoyed myself, and it was an eye-opening experience, to say the least. So
why was you've done this job before, so what was different about it? If you, I mean, obviously not naming names.
No. This is when I first started out. So at first, obviously, I was in the kit room with the Digital Orchard, so I was more as an assistant. So going in they've got no one. They need a hand. They need someone who knows the kit a bit better. I would go in and do that. But the difference with that was that I'd worked on slightly smaller projects like TV series or smaller shoot things, documentaries, that kind of stuff. This was the first time I'd actually set foot on a major motion picture set. And the feeling of that was very different, because every day is your first day on set sometimes.
Yeah.
And you have to build a rapport with people, but also understand that you have a role and a place. And again, I only did a few days, but I really enjoyed myself. But I had to learn very quickly what was going on.
Yeah.
And I liked that. I liked that you have to pick things up quickly. You have to learn. You can't sit around idly twiddling your thumbs. You have to be on it. You have to be thinking at all times.
Yeah. And that's kind of... And Timi, can I ask you the same? Can I ask you maybe run through something you really liked?
So we just recently, last year, did Jurassic.
Yeah.
The new Jurassic that's coming out this summer.
What's the title? What's the full title? You can tell me the full title.
I think it's Jurassic World Rebirth?
I think it's Rebirth.
Yeah, Rebirth, yeah.
I think they've just released the first trailer for it.
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
I was hoping for Jurassic Universe. You had Jurassic Park, Jurassic World, and I thought next up, space. Got to be space, right? But
who doesn't want space dinosaurs?
Yeah, Gareth Edwards' film. So yeah, we did that for about 16 weeks, 20 weeks last summer. For us, it was the biggest film to date. Especially in the scan department that we've worked on. And so it was just exciting to be able to work with, on that caliber of talent. And yeah, just to see the rushes daily, and to liaise with the various departments. Yeah, it was fun. It was fun to work on. And I think last year we did 8 features. So yeah, last year was our busiest year. So there's even a small, sort of relatively, I guess, indie that we worked on that was shot in Lagos, which is originally where I'm from. So that was good to see Lagos actually shot on film. I think it's a BBC or BFI production. So yeah, there's an array of stuff. There's commercials. So I get the chance to see all sorts, from indies to big budgets. Yeah, it's quite fun.
Yeah. That's the whole point and the fun of it is that.
Yeah.
So one day you can be on this massive set with the biggest stars known to man, but then next day you're on a tiny little industrial estate in the middle of Luton, which is one of the last jobs I did. We were shooting just middle of Luton, having fun, and it went really well. It worked really fun. It was fine. It was just very different to a studio day where you're in one place all day, you don't move, whereas location work is more, you're jumping about, you're doing this, you're going over to there, going over to there, you're having to shoot this scene like that because you've got traffic to think about and that kind of stuff.
The light's going, or there's a cloud coming over, it's going to rain or something like that.
Exactly. Again, if you're in a studio, you have all the time in the world because you can adjust the light as and when you need it. Again, as you were saying, in location work, you have to adhere to the day.
Yeah. So I'm just kind of thinking again. It's like just if I'm a student and I'm starting. Yeah. So I mean, you're in this now, but you start as an intern, as a
trainee.
As a trainee.
Yeah.
So what's a trainee's days like? If I'm one of these ladies and gents and I go out and there's some of us that are working with, some of my students are working with Digital Orchard already, but quite a lot aren't, because. So if I go and work for a trainee, what's my trainee's day like?
A trainee's day like is usually arrive at call time, usually at request from the main operator. So say you've got your DIT or your video operator.
So what sort of time is that?
An average call time is about 8 a.m.
Okay.
That's a usual one because it means you get the most out of the day.
Early but not too early.
Yes, exactly. The latest one I ever did was 5 o'clock in the afternoon until 3 o'clock in the morning. So, yeah, that hurt. Yeah. But again, it worked fine. A trainee's job is usually being taught by the assistant or the operator the processes of working on set. They have knowledge, but not enough that they could take over and do the operator's job at that point. So again, it's about coiling cables, it's about getting coffees, it's making sure that your operator is happy, that they've got everything they need, you're making sure that monitors are where they need to be, you're just being another pair of hands. Yeah. And sometimes it can be boring. I'll happily admit, sometimes film work can be boring because you are sat around for hours doing very little. But at the same time, you know that that's going to lead to something bigger and more interesting as you go along. Yeah. That's, again, the part of the industry is the patience. You have to be a patient person.
Yeah. Is that the same in DIT?
So scanning is not exactly the same. A typical day for an assistant would be sort of shadowing an operator and then learning about, again, the basics of exposure and RGB scopes, or even learning about emulsion and how a celluloid is processed, and then film handling as well, how we handle film, because we really have to be careful to make sure we're handling it with care, because the negative is the original negative.
It's all there is, right?
It's all there is. So
if that goes, you go.
If the digitized file is lost and the negative is lost, that's it. There's no image. And yeah, just shadowing the operator, and then typically we'll talk through what we do as we're watching the image, what we're looking for, and then what to report to the production team, to the camera team, or how to liaise with them. Because again, with film, things tend to go wrong, and sometimes you get panic from productions. So we have to, almost, yes, in a sense, soften the blow sometimes when things go wrong, or we try and make life easy. We don't want to make life harder for those on set, because they're already doing long hours. So yeah, we try and keep it as smooth as possible. And then we're trying, as I said earlier, we try and hit our marks to make sure that we're not hindering, the workflow pipeline process.
Because again, I'm quite interested in this term deliverables. It's kind of like we talk about when we're in college, we talk about films and we talk about tracks, we talk about tunes, but in the industry, people talk about a deliverable.
Yeah.
And a deliverable might be, I mean, I don't know if we're in...
So on a DIT side, a deliverable would be your daily's deliverable. Yeah. So often in digital film, what you end up doing is your DIT or data wrangler at the end of the day will have all the cards from the camera and will have uploaded those to multiple places to keep it safe. You then send off one shuttle to whatever daily's house you're using.
A shuttle is...
it's a little hard drive, basically.
Yeah.
And it's kept in a safe lock box, and you send that off to whoever is using it. Again, if you were sending it to Digital Orchard, you'd send it off to our home base, our headquarters, where they would, overnight, they would upload it to post-production, so the editors and the VFX people would then get that. You'd then go through each individual clip, go QCing. It's a very similar process, but the opposite side for scanning.
Yeah.
And it's all about making sure that everything is where it should be, that you can look through each file and go, that's that, this is where that needs to be, this file matches up to this. It's all about being efficient but consistent.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like, I mean, it's file management isn't necessarily something you think of as part of the creative process, but it kind of is.
There's a lot of data management. There's a lot of making sure that what we've captured again from the film side is preserved somewhere again on a hard drive, or usually what we do is when we create using Resolve, we create various file types. So it could be a ProRes, it could be an MXF. And we send that to the client as an edit file, and then the master file we preserve on a hard drive, or again we upload it online, and then we encourage them to download it before the link expires. But they're quite similar processes in terms of dealing with data. It's just
it's making sure that you haven't got one place where it's all stored. So again, also another part of DIT work is when the camera cards come to you, you hold on to those until you know the editorial are happy with them, they've got everything they want, and then you can wipe them and give them back to the camera team so they can be reused. It's all about communicating from one end of the pipeline all the way to the other end. It's you're not just thinking about what's happening directly in front of you. You're thinking about, I've got to make the dailies operators' job a bit easier, so I'll make sure that this is explained. And if you have you send an email to them going, hey, there was an issue with this. You can it's written here. It's in this file. That kind of stuff. It's making sure that everything is as easy but also as informative as possible.
Okay. So, I'm getting the impression, I've had this impression through the day, that one of the differences between the sort of the amateur end, me in my home studio, and the professional end, is the professional end, there's a lot of stuff, right? There's kind of like, I was talking to Ashley about sound, and there's it's not just, here's the sound for the film. It's kind of, there's 5.1 and 7.1, it's all split into reels, and there's the stereo one, and then you have the ones without without the voice on it, so they can overdub it, and there's kind of 20 or 30 audio deliverables and another 20 or 30 video deliverables for any given bit of film.
And again, to add another thing is that video, they record everything onto an internal hard drive on their computer, so if DIT loses anything, they've still got a backup.
There's still
something they can go back onto it. DIT and video often work very closely together for that same reason.
Okay.
And you talk about a lot of, on these professional level, a lot of things going on. Like on some productions, you have hybrid shoots. They're shooting digital and they're shooting film. So the digital side has to be preserved. So on the film side as well, and then you have to make sure that the deliverables we're creating for film is also in accordance with their workflow, which is on the digital side. So a lot of things can be going on at once, but our role is to make sure we're preserving.
Being very organised.
You have to keep a record of everything you do. So again, on a job that I've been doing recently, there's a lot of cards coming from the camera that you have to think about because there's multiple cameras on the shoot, so you have to record it in a document, making sure that this is how much was on it, this is how many clips was on it, this is how long it took me to do it, this is the upload speed, all that kind of things. It's very much you've got to back everything up with evidence is another thing.
Speaking of organisation, I'm told that we are now almost out of time. So I'm hoping, there we go, that's my segue, that was amazing, right? So I'm told we're almost out of time. So I would like to bring the panels to a close. I understand, speaking of organisation, I understand there may or may not still be a podcast going on. But I would like to thank all my guests. So I'd like to thank Nico and Timi from Digital Orchard. I'd like to thank Ashley from SSL and Cameron from O2 Oxford. I'd like to thank Gerda, Hayley, James, Annie and Lulu from Universal Music Group. I'd like to thank Kathy Hale from Emporium, Dee from Deluxe, Jay from himself, I guess. And I'd like to thank Stuart and Kathy. Sorry, I'd like to thank... I've got that wrong, haven't I? I'd like to thank Stuart from Universal Pixels. So it's been a really good day. I hope we've had a decent range of insights into a wide range of the music and media industries. I'd like to call it a wrap. Thank you very much and goodbye.
Thanks for having us.